been a long time since I made a video, so I decided to make a video right now. I just arrived in this place near Aljezur, and basically I've been really busy going from one event to the other and meeting one person after the other the last days. And there's a rainbow festival which in Portugal, which I was at, and I picked up somebody there, and then we went to São Martinho do Almoreira, which is basically the village next to Montesaja where Mooji is. And for the first time, I was in the Casa Nirvana, which is like a restaurant basically managed by people from the community. And it was, I think, in my opinion, the best restaurant that I've ever been to. And I really like the whole concept. Everything is gorgeous. If you check my Awakening Camp Instagram, you will see a walkthrough through the restaurant and see some of the food they serve. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's amazing. And so I really did enjoy that a lot. Unfortunately, in San Martino, there aren't that many places for a campervan to stay. So it's not so easy if you're like, oh, I want to stay a month and just hang around. From what I've seen, it's not so easy. Yeah, but the night that I was there, it was really nice. So I went to the restaurant twice actually because it was so good. And then I dropped off that girl on a bus station and continued here to Aljezur. And here in Aljezur, I've been many times. Um, I really like it a lot here, this region. I'm not the biggest fan of Portugal, but if you're into spiritual events and spiritual people, it's in Europe, I think it's the most densest place where you feel there's a lot of it. And there's literally one event after the other. And the good thing is that the Algarve and Portugal is tiny in comparison to other places, so you can drive very quickly between these places. And for example, there's an event on Saturday in Globe Tribe, which is near Huelva, which is between Sevilla and Matalascañas. And I'm gonna try to get to the Saturday event if I can make it. So, and then I pick up a guitar looper in Tavira, and maybe buy an electric guitar also in Tavira. I'll see if they have one. And then I drive back because there's many events. There's one on the 14th, 15th, no, 13th, 14th that I'm going to. Then at the end of the month, there's, I think, again, a full moon or new moon, a like ecstatic dance. And so it's just one after the other. There's like no time you are without events. There's even on the 17th, there is an event. And for everyone who doesn't know, so I programmed an app which is called Awakening Camp, and it basically shows all conscious events and locations, and everybody can add themselves and see other people on there that are around them. And so it's a pretty good app. It's hard to get people in there, but it's a pretty good app. And it's on iOS as well as Android. And yeah, and it's interesting because as I spoke to many people, it seems like a lot of them have big changes between, starting from January, February. You can literally feel like a lot of people are going through changes. A lot of people are looking for reorientation. A lot of people are dropping their jobs, looking for new ways of living. You literally feel this very strongly in the beginning of the year, even including for me, the synchronicities were there, perfectly aligned. And I am thinking about buying a property in Portugal to do retreat events and have like a kind of like a semi community going on, which I'm contemplating. But I feel like I'm being led rather than having to lead. So I feel like I don't need to push anything. It just seems to come at its own timing, divine timing, and that's pretty cool. Now I learned a lot of new stuff about social dynamics, about people, also about women, and some of it is rather black pillishy, and it's not the best kind of news, but it's it's some kind of news. And but I'm not going to share that here right now, maybe in another video. And I've been also thinking about, you know, which way my soul plan is going, because I don't feel like a non-duality teacher. I sometimes think about whether trying to feel into my intuition, whether I should become a non-duality teacher, but I often don't feel it. So because you should only do things where you feel your heart intuition is pulling you towards. So don't do things because you think they might be a success. Don't do things because you want to copy someone else. Do things because you feel from your heart intuition that it's the right thing to do, even if it seems strange in some form or fashion. For example, I'm one of the best tantra masseurs in the world, I feel, and some of my clients have said it. And but I don't feel the pull towards she where she's trying to explore things, and she wants to try a lot of different things and also intense experiences. And I told her, hey, if you're interested, I can give you like a tantric session and you will see where that leads you to. And what I noticed is the days that we spent together, it never seemed to really go in that direction. It never seemed to be like something that her soul plan was really like deeply open for or desiring at that moment in time. So it never kind of organically developed where we said, okay, let's do it now. And that's super interesting because if something is meant to be, you don't need to push it. You can signal it maybe, but you don't need to push it because the soul of the other will activate towards that. So for example, let's say for example I would be a curandero and I would offer ayahuasca, okay? And I would say, hey, this is what I do, this is what I offer. Then the other person, if that's the right moment, they will be pulled towards and be like, hey, yeah, I want to do it, and especially with you, etc. And so you don't need to create false or fake pull towards something. You just need to, maybe you can state it, you can say something, you can say like, oh, this is my desire, and verbalize it, or whatever it is, but you don't need to push it. And that's what a lot of people misunderstand, because they try to push things in a certain direction. If it's not in their soul plan, it really doesn't materialize. And that's something that Ramana Maharshi said, is if you want something to happen or not something to happen, it's you don't have the control. It's literally the universe that decides that. But observing others, it seems like, and that's the fallacy, it seems like you could control what is happening or not happening. But just because it happens for someone else doesn't mean it will happen for you. And that's a very clear distinction you have to make. I give you an example with the massages. So when I started massaging, um, all of the text, all of the progress towards putting it online and saying this is what I do, it took only like 1 or 2 days. And 2 days later, already my first client started to show up. So there was very little effort because it was perfectly in my soul plan. And someone else, and I knew some people who were trying to do the same thing, but they were not doing it from, spiritual awakening or from the soul plan. They wanted to do it from the ego, and they were struggling with it. And so that's literally the difference between, doing something from the soul plan at the right time, at the right moment in life, versus trying to push something. And that's the great benefit of spiritual awakening, because you don't feel pressure to do anything. So you're just present in the moment, and you let it naturally arise when something is ready to be done. And yeah, that's one of life philosophies you can have. Most people, they choose to struggle and to strive and struggle. And when it's definitely not necessary, you have to accept that you have a very unique soul plan, and you can't just copy it from someone else. So you cannot read it in a book, or read it from, copy it from someone else's life and be like, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Because if it's not in your soul plan, you're not going to do the same thing. It's just not going to happen. So that's one of the learnings. And what I also learned is that if you have a lot of energy and you're very positive and you're very optimistic, you have to be a little bit careful as to what other people around you are doing, in the sense that a lot of them try to actually kind of steal your energy or get activated by that energy, but not give anything back. And that is very common in modern culture, to just consume the energy and not give anything back. And unfortunately, a lot of women do this. It's very covert, it's very subtle, so a lot of people don't recognize what's happening. And I think the trick is to learn to not be needy, and be able to detach and not offer this energy freely. I think this is super important, because then you can make clear decisions as to what serves you, in terms of higher harmony, rather than giving your energy to everyone and anyone who wants to take advantage of it and just consume it. And that's a hard thing to learn, because it also means that you have to learn to pass by opportunities that seem to be good opportunities, when in reality they're just, I would say, abysmal opportunities. But if it feels like the synchronicities throws stuff at you, then of course there you can explore it. So for example, if, let's say, you meet someone by chance, which definitely seems like a synchronicity, and everything falls into place, then you can explore it, but with a sense of detachment, knowing that there's maybe a learning behind it. And I think behind a lot of these synchronicities there are hidden learnings. And rather than looking at the practical application, you could say, of the synchronicities, try to look at the metaphysical signs of what the learning could be. And I think it's also a very interesting life philosophy. So instead of running around and being like, oh, this happened to me, that happened to me, and this was good and this was bad, looking at things rather from the perspective of, what synchronicity, what metaphysically does that synchronicity want to teach me? Is there something, an aspect of my soul plan, an aspect of my deeper self, that where you can see something that you haven't seen before? So those are all learnings that I'm making the last days. And one of the most interesting learnings for me is that around Mooji, around this community of Mooji, I feel the most comfortable, because that's literally the anchor, the core of my soul plan. So when I meet people who are obviously in that community, I feel very much at home. Whereas when I go outside of that community and I meet people in any other situation, I don't really feel at home. It feels more like a strong disconnect. It doesn't matter where. And I think it helped me to be, even though it was just a restaurant, but obviously some people are from that community, I felt a deep sense of being at home, or relaxing into beingness and into my natural kind of self, rather than the agitation of people that are very in the mind, very much dense. It definitely has a different vibe. It's very, very interesting. That's why so many people who go, I think, to Monte Sahaja are like, oh my god, the people are so nice and so forth. The thing is, I'm also very naturally optimistic, nice, good, in good mood, and all of these things. They come naturally with the spiritual awakening, and um, and the moment I go outside of these communities, or in general life, I feel like there's so many people missing that. Hi, Thomas. And so that's super interesting to observe that. So I don't even think it makes a lot of sense to travel to other continents, to other places, unless they are connected uh, with that spirituality. And one thing that bothers me this year about Portugal is that it's cold. May last year wasn't as cold as this, and December was cold in Spain. Then you had the huge storms in Spain and in Portugal. This winter, this spring, is not a good weather overall in comparison to the years before. So I'm not enjoying the weather too much. It's a cold wind pretty much every day, no matter where you are in Portugal or Spain. The winds in Costa de la Luz, they were also pretty cold. Yeah. And I wanted to say something about the eco communities. The eco communities are very interesting. So I've never visited eco communities before 2026. And this year I visited several already. And what's interesting is that you have 3, 4 different type of people going there. It's not very many spiritual awakened people going there, because they seem to me more connected to the Mooji community and all of that. So truly spiritually awakened people don't go from one event to another. It seems to attract more. I'm not saying that they don't go there at all. It's just not a huge percentage. It seems to attract more like the druggies, the people who take too much drugs or partially into drugs. Then it attracts the people who are lost, and it attracts the people who are curious and young and trying to explore. Those are like the 3 type of people it attracts. Maybe the fourth is maybe like I would say a little bit like the eccentric, eclectic kind of person that is just on adventuring what is out there. Druggies, I would say, is always like 10 to 20%. I don't think it's more. Of course, everybody tries, psilocybin and the mushrooms and all of this stuff, and maybe LSD or something. But the real druggies that fry their brains with this stuff, they seem to be like 10 to 20% maybe of those communities, and let's say also from Rainbow Festival and so forth. And from the spiritual awakening, I can tell with 100% certainty that taking these drugs, even if you take them often, doesn't help you with spiritual awakening and doesn't make you less toxic. So if you are a toxic person or you give it to someone who's toxic, they don't become automatically non-toxic taking these. This is one of the most interesting revelations. So if someone is a toxic metaframer, just because they take psilocybin or LSD or ayahuasca, that doesn't mean necessarily or most likely that they're becoming non-toxic. And that was also a very interesting observation. Um, they don't become less judgmental. They become more like brain fried, which can seem like less judgmental, but it's not the same thing. And for example, people who take a lot of marijuana, they are like more slower in their brain and their eye movement, and unfortunately becomes permanent at some point. And so they seem like more loving, more compassionate, when in reality they're just less truly present. They're basically lost in their mind. And so that was an interesting observation as well. And a lot of these are super toxic in the communities, and I know why. I asked myself, why is it that some of these super toxic people are in the communities? It's because the narcissist needs victims. And ideally, because if you're hypersensitive and you have a good sense for your own intuition and higher harmony, you tend to avoid people that make you feel disharmonious. But if you're young and you feel attracted to these communities to try a different lifestyle, it's a little bit also a little bit of a marketing gimmick behind it, because you go to these eco communities, let's say as a 22-year-old woman, and you're like, this is interesting. Like, I want to live like that. And then you have these narcissistic guys, sometimes also women, it's not just guys. They hang around and they prey on these victims. And so, and because there is no easy escape route for the victim, especially if they're on like a volunteer role or something like that, the narcissist can play with them for many days without them even realizing it. And the narcissist always has the perfect tools to play with the victims without them realizing it. It's a little bit like in nature when one animal takes advantage of another animal and disguising their lethal kind of hunting skills, like for example camouflage, and the victim not realizing um, what what this predator is able to do until it's too late. And it's very similar with narcissists, especially those that are disguised narcissists, and the communities are perfect for that because they can slowly prey on the victim in these kind of communities. And I noticed it with several people, some women, but especially guys. And it was interesting to like uncover it, and very quickly. Like it didn't take me long to uncover it because of knowing toxic metaframing, understanding toxic metaframing, direct, non-direct, verbal, non-verbal. So that helped a lot. And so anybody who doesn't know about toxic metaframing yet, I highly suggest watching my videos on that. That totally changes understanding of social dynamics and escaping toxic people, recognizing them in minutes. And so that was an interesting learning about the eco communities, and that made me realize you cannot run an open community and expect it to work. You have to have either a very, very clear and brutal screening process, which interestingly Monte Sahaja started to do, and more like communities that try to be conscious started to do, or you just don't have that many people there and just have maybe a high rotation but very few, very, very few permanent people there, um, to protect basically the place from people like that entering. Um, and like in The Beach, the movie The Beach, you just need one person that is problematic to basically mess up the whole group dynamic. And I think that's a known factor. Everybody knows this. Would I want to live in a community like that? Only if you can completely disconnect. Like some of these communities, you don't even need to see the people much, and you can just enjoy the nature around it and so forth. But I still think it's still better than completely living alone. Um, if you know how to deal with it. Uh, so I'm getting a guitar looper. I'm getting the e-guitar, and then I'll have some nice content to upload for sure. And if you have any kind of request on any kind of videos that you would like on any live topic or something like that, just let me know in the comments. And see you soon.